My name is Arabella. I'm 36 years old and live in a quiet town just outside Denver, Colorado. I work as an accounting assistant for a medical equipment supplier and also manage our home. It's just me and my husband, Tyler, no kids, no noise, just the two of us. Tyler is the same age as me. He's a sales team leader at a major real estate firm. He always looks polished, speaks with a confident, persuasive tone, and wears crisp shirts with a hint of expensive cologne. To anyone looking from the outside, I probably seem lucky, but no one sees the coldness that lingers inside our home. Today was supposed to be special. June 12th marks both our wedding anniversary and Tyler's 36th birthday. I took a half day off from work, drove 30 minutes to get his favorite red wine, and stopped by a specialty butcher to pick out a cut of Wagyu short ribs. I'm not a skilled cook, but I wanted this dinner to feel memorable. I strung lights across the balcony, laid an ivory tablecloth, and arranged the silverware neatly. The custom cake I had ordered, a simple vanilla one with smooth frosting and a small message saying, "Happy birthday and anniversary, Tyler," waited in the fridge. By 7 p.m., I adjusted my dress, dabbed on some perfume, and sat down, imagining how happy he would be. I expected him home by 8. I lit the candles, and when 9 came with no sign of him, I texted, "I'm waiting." No reply. By 9:30, I called. 5 rings, and got voicemail. Finally, at 10:35 p.m., a brief email appeared in my inbox. "Sorry, big client emergency. I have to stay at the office. We'll make it up later." No, thank you. No, happy anniversary. I set the phone down. The candles had long burned out, the cake untouched, and I stood frozen in the warm glow of the dining room lights, still holding the neatly folded napkin I had prepared for him. I didn't cry, but something inside me shifted. That night, I packed away the meat, took down the lights, and wiped the table clean. No one enjoyed the dinner. No one was there to celebrate with me. Around midnight, I lay down on the bed, still in the wrinkled dress, feeling the emptiness settle in. I tried to sleep that night, but the memory of that short, cold email kept slicing through my mind like a dull blade. This wasn't the first time Tyler had come home late, or the first time I had waited until my body ached in lonely anticipation. Yet something felt different this time. A quiet, creeping dread that settled over me like a chill breeze down my spine. The next morning, I got up early and went to work as usual, but all day passed without a single message from him. I called, but the ringing went unanswered. It was as if I had ceased to exist in his world. By noon, growing uneasy, I called his office. The receptionist paused, then finally said, "Oh, he resigned 3 days ago." He didn't leave any forwarding information. I froze in the hallway of my office. The air felt thick and heavy. My heart raced as memories of the past weeks flashed through my mind, sharp and unrelenting. Suddenly, it hit me. This wasn't about work. This wasn't a client emergency. He had chosen to disappear, and I, his wife of 8 years, was the last person to know. After work, I rushed home. Every turn of the wheel felt like fighting against a rising tide. When I unlocked the door to our apartment on the 3rd floor, the place that had once felt like a safe haven now seemed suffocatingly silent. My eyes immediately caught the shoe rack. There was a glaring empty space in the 2nd row. Tyler's favorite brown leather shoes were gone. "Tyler!" I called, my voice shaking. No response. I hurried to the bedroom, and my heart sank like a stone. He was standing in the middle of the room, beside an open suitcase. Clothes had been tossed into a duffel bag in a rush. A navy suit, a tie, a pair of brand new dress shoes still with the tags on. Items he never wore for ordinary meetings. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice barely steady. Tyler looked up at me, as if I were a stranger. "You're back," he said flatly, then returned to packing. I stepped closer. "Where are you going?" "Next date over," he said casually. "I've accepted a new job in Albuquerque." I froze. You quit your job and didn't say a word to me." He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled a slim folder from his bag and set it on the table. Opening it, the first page revealed divorce papers. "Tyler, what is this?" I whispered, my voice cracking. His eyes were cold, steel-like. "You're no longer the wife I need." "What are you talking about?" I gasped, unable to believe it. "You always put work first. The house is dusty, you only cook on weekends, you barely notice me, you don't care about me anymore." I gripped the papers, trying to make sense of the impossible. "I try. You come home late, saying you've already eaten. I cook, you ignore it. I clean, and you tell me not to touch your desk. And now you blame me for not fulfilling my duties? Don't bring up petty things," he snapped. "You just make excuses. A real wife doesn't need reminders." I let out a bitter laugh. "You talk like..." "I sit around all day. I work. I pay half the rent. Yet no one cooks dinner for me. No one asks if I'm okay. And I never complained." Tyler narrowed his eyes. "That's your choice. I've made mine." He zipped up the suitcase and moved toward the door. "I rented an apartment near my new job. I start next week. Don't get in my way." I stepped in front of him, blocking the door. But he didn't flinch. No apology. No explanation. "After 8 years," he said, "I don't owe you anything," and brushed past me without looking back. The door clicked shut behind him, final and cold, like the slam of a courtroom gavel. I sank to the floor, clutching the divorce papers, my hands trembling. 2 days later, I got a call from building management. "Mrs. Arabella, we just received a request to transfer the lease. The current leaseholder has requested to terminate the contract." I froze. "What did he say?" "There was just a note," the receptionist replied. "I no longer live there. The person staying behind will clear out and move before the end of the month." No discussion, no message. That night, I rifled through the drawers of our old desk and found the receipts for all the furniture. Almost everything, from the sofa to the fridge, was under my name. The only things he had taken were clothes and a few small tech items. Tyler left like a stranger. But that very coldness, that detachment, was what finally woke me up. I looked around the apartment. Everything was still here. Everything, that is, except the marriage. I didn't sign the divorce papers immediately. They sat on the table for 3 days, like a scratch that hadn't yet begun to bleed. Every time I walked past, I stopped and stared, hoping somehow a reason would materialize between the cold, typed lines. But the more I looked, the clearer it became. There was no explanation. The only truth was Tyler's brutal silence when he walked out without a word. On Saturday night, I received a notification from an old friends group, our 18-year high school reunion at a craft brewery downtown Denver. I had once looked forward to it, even paid the reservation fee a month ago. Back then, I imagined arriving with Tyler, hand in hand, a stable couple among those who were struggling or divorced. Now, it was just me, carrying a hollow ache that ran deep. I almost didn't go. But when I looked in the mirror, I saw my own tired face, still holding a trace of dignity. And for the first time since he left, I felt the faintest flicker of something I hadn't realized I still had. Myself. I got dressed in a simple black dress, applied wine-colored lipstick, and pulled my hair back. Not to impress anyone, just to remind myself that I still existed, that I was still strong enough to walk into a crowded room without flinching. Moonlight Brewery was just as loud and lively as I remembered from our teenage years. Laughter, clinking glasses, and the hum of old stories filled every corner. I stepped into the noise, feeling slightly out of place, until a familiar glance stopped me. "Hey, Arabella." I turned. It was Nathan, the guy who used to play bass in our high school band. He had a bit of stubble now, a calm, settled look that made him seem older and warmer. "I almost didn't recognize you," he smiled, handing me a beer. "Still the last one to show up, huh?" We found a small table tucked in the back. Nathan shared that he'd been divorced for 3 years and was raising his 6-year-old daughter alone. There was no bitterness, no dramatics, just quiet truths spoken like two adults halfway through life. When he asked about Tyler, I answered simply, "We're getting divorced, no pity necessary." Nathan gave a small nod and immediately changed the subject, and I found myself quietly grateful for that. Driving home that night through the early summer chill of Colorado, I turned on the radio. An old song came on. Its lyrics hit me like a punch to the chest, pulling up a flood of memories. Cold dinners left untouched, unread messages, hugs that had faded into nothing, For years, I had told myself, Tyler's busy. I should be more understanding. I just need to try harder. Facing the bare truth, I realized I had lived like a shadow, always finding excuses for someone else's neglect. Sunday morning, as I brewed coffee, my phone rang. The screen flashed Tyler's name. I hesitated for a few seconds, then picked up. I've informed the leasing office. We're terminating the contract by the end of the month. You should start packing, he said, his voice flat, almost like a command. I stayed calm. Don't you think you should have asked if I had somewhere else to go? You're supposed to be an adult. Figure it out. He replied bluntly. I said figure it out. I set my mug down and spoke slowly, deliberately. Good. I'll sign. Tyler stayed quiet. And don't call again, I said firmly. Don't talk to me like this. I was still the one keeping the house in order, still maintaining the life we'd built together, yet there was no response. I hung up without hesitation and sat at the table. My eyes drifted over the divorce papers. Then, as if finally closing a chapter that had long since decayed, I picked up the pen and signed my name. There was no tremor in my hand. No tears. Just clarity. After so many years clouded by hollow promises, I finally felt certain. Exactly 1 week after submitting the signed papers through my attorney, an email from Tyler arrived close to 10 p.m. The subject line contained only one word. Proof. I opened it, and before I could even read the first line, a photo jumped off the screen. A marriage certificate. Groom. Tyler Robert James Ride. Bride. Marissa Ellis Whitmore. Stamped in deep red at the bottom. Bernalillo County, New Mexico. Date of registration. Exactly 1 day after the court finalized our divorce. Before I could react, my phone rang. It was him, calling immediately after sending the email. I picked up. Did you see it? His voice carried a disturbingly triumphant edge. I got remarried. Life's never been better. I stayed silent, listening. And deep inside, something quiet began to shift. Her name's Marissa, he continued. She's 36, just like you. But mature, gentle. I remained silent. She's the only daughter of the family that owns the Whitmore real estate chain in Santa Fe. Her parents built us a small house near the Southern Hills, and the job, her family helped me become executive vice president at her company. So that's why you needed the divorce so quickly? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Not entirely? I just couldn't keep living with a woman who always put work first and neglected her role as a wife, he said, blunt and unashamed. I let out a quiet laugh. And your new wife? She doesn't work. She chose to take care of the home. And we're expecting a baby girl, Tyler said smugly. She's 3 months pregnant. Each sentence Tyler spoke felt like a dull blade, severing the final thread that had once tied me to that marriage. But instead of pain, all I felt was a hollow stillness. Marissa Whitmore. I repeated the name after hanging up. It wasn't unfamiliar. I opened Facebook and typed it in. Her profile appeared almost instantly. The photo showed a stunning woman with soft blonde waves, sharp blue eyes, and a smile that could make anyone feel small. I scrolled down, and then, on the 10th photo, I froze. Marissa was the girl who had gone to high school with me for 3 years. Back then, her name was Marissa Ellis, not Whitmore. She had been scrawny, with squinty eyes, a flat nose, and blotchy skin from makeup allergies. She used to sit in the back of the classroom, barely speaking, and often got picked on by classmates. No way. I reopened the wedding photo Tyler had sent in his email. The bride in that picture looked like an entirely different person. Not a trace of the old Marissa Ellis remained, yet I remembered those eyes, the slightly crooked tooth she'd been teased for, the way she always looked down while walking through the hallway. How could I forget? I called Lana, my best friend from high school. Do you remember Marissa Ellis? I asked. There was a pause on the other end. Then Lana laughed. Not only do I remember her, I still have a picture of her from senior year. Why are you suddenly bringing her up? I told her everything. About Tyler, the new marriage, the gifted house, the magically acquired executive title. Lana wasn't surprised. She changed completely after moving to New York to study art. She went through multiple plastic surgeries, chin, nose, eyes, jawline, People still called her Marissa, but her personality, the same. Quiet, calculating, very strategic about who she latches onto. I stayed silent. There was a rumor she got involved with a much older, married architect in Brooklyn, Lana added. Then she moved back to New Mexico and opened an art gallery. Guess. She's leveled up now. I had no more questions that night. I sat in my living room, staring at Tyler and Marissa's wedding photo. Everything in the frames sparkled. The flowers, the white dress, her perfectly aligned teeth and that bright, flawless smile. But I knew better. Behind all that was layers of makeup, a carefully crafted image, and a well-disguised motive, and he had chosen her. 1 week after Tyler's bragging call, I received a message from an unknown number, short and direct. Arabella, are you free? I need to talk. It's serious. I knew exactly who it was. I didn't respond. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. I picked up, not because I cared, but because something told me it would be worth listening. Marissa gave birth, Tyler said immediately. A baby girl. I heard him swallow hard, then silence. I waited. She doesn't look like me. Or Marissa. Actually, she doesn't look like either of us. I tightened my grip on the phone, pressing my lips together, to stop myself from laughing. Maybe she takes after someone on your side of the family. I offered lightly. No, I thought that too. But, Arabella, do you remember when you laughed hysterically after I told you about Marissa? You knew something, didn't you? His voice suddenly rose, nervous and panicked. I leaned back in my chair, a slight smirk on my lips. I just found it interesting, I said, keeping my tone calm yet sharp. Stop joking. I did a DNA test. The baby is mine. But I still don't get it. Why doesn't she look like either of us? I haven't told anyone but you. You laughed like you knew something. Please tell me. I let out a quiet chuckle, my voice steady. Do you remember your high school graduation album? Silence. I found it while packing up the old apartment. It was buried at the bottom of your desk drawer, covered in dust. You were digging through my stuff, Tyler said, his voice tinged with irritation. No, I emphasized. I was cleaning, as you requested, and when I opened that album, I was stunned. A curly-haired boy with squinty eyes, crooked teeth, and acne-covered skin stared back at me. It took me a few minutes to realize. It was you. Tyler exhaled slowly. I always wondered why, in 8 years, you never introduced me to your college friends. Why you insisted on a small wedding with no friends. Why there wasn't a single teenage photo in our home. Now, I understand. I changed out of insecurity, he said quietly. No, I replied, letting the silence linger. I replied, you changed because you wanted to live a new life, but you forgot one simple truth. Genetics can't be altered. Silence stretched between us. You think I'm ashamed of who I was? No, I continued. I feel sorry for an innocent child who's going to grow up with 2 parents who couldn't be honest. You hid your past. So did Marissa. And now you're surprised your daughter doesn't resemble the edited versions you both constructed. You think she's going to look like that old version of me. Tyler's voice wavered. No one knows. But she will carry what's real in you. Your blood, your DNA, everything you've tried to erase. I could hear him inhale sharply. What about Marissa? I asked, cutting in one last time. She cried, he admitted, said she was exhausted from labor. But you know what's worse? She won't hold the baby. Every time she looks at her daughter's face, she turns away. Yesterday, her mother had to step in and hold the baby because she refused. I don't know what to do. I stayed quiet. A bitter heaviness rose in my chest, not for Tyler, but for a child already rejected by the very people who brought her into this world. I lowered my voice. You once said I failed as a wife, because I wasn't willing to sacrifice. But the one rejecting his role as a father is you. Tyler sighed, maybe about to speak again, but I stopped him. You don't need advice from me. I just hope you don't project your shame onto that baby. She didn't do anything wrong. I ended the call before he could reply, then blocked his number. There was nothing more I needed to hear. Nearly a year after that final conversation with Tyler, I barely remembered his presence in my life. Not because I tried to forget, but because the life I built after him filled every empty space he had left behind. I moved into a small apartment in Boulder, just a 10-minute walk from the office. The balcony overlooked green hills, catching just enough sun to grow a few pots of herbs. Mornings no longer felt like something to dread. I'd wake early, make coffee, and simply breathe. I kept my job but reduced my hours. I chose a life of balance over burnout, pursuing things that were truly meant for me. I enrolled in a weekend art class and reconnected with old friends, including Nathan, the man I had met at the reunion. We didn't tie each other down with promises or expectations. Instead, there were quiet afternoons, simple companionship, two people who valued peace. I no longer checked on Tyler, but life has a strange way of updating you about people who once stepped out of it. One early autumn afternoon, I ran into Lana at a used bookstore. After a few casual greetings, she leaned in and whispered, "You haven't heard anything about Tyler, have you?" I shook my head slightly. "Orisa is looking for a divorce attorney," she said. I raised an eyebrow, unsurprised. "The word is, Tyler cheated again," Lana continued, lowering her voice. "With a new hire at Marissa's company. Marissa found out 3 months ago but kept quiet for the child's sake." "The child?" I asked. "Their daughter," Lana said. "She's almost 3 now. But it gets worse." She showed me a screenshot from a friend in a preschool parent group. Apparently, there was a new girl in class whose mom had undergone full plastic surgery. The kids found out and started teasing her, saying things like, "Your mom used to be ugly." The poor child cried all week. I stared at the message, my heart sinking. Even though I no longer cared about Tyler or Marissa, thinking of a child being bullied for choices she didn't make broke something inside me. Sadness, anger, frustration. "Marissa regrets having the baby," Lana added. "She thought the child would inherit her post-surgery beauty. Now it's obvious the girl carries the original genes." I said nothing. There was nothing left to say. Tyler and Marissa had once chosen a life wrapped in glitter, built on illusions of beauty, status, and control. But in the end, what couldn't be hidden, the past, the truth, and the way they treated others, was what showed up the clearest, especially in the life of a child. I returned to my afternoon, picking up a small croissant from the bakery and strolling home through the park, where golden sunlight streamed through the grass. My life now held no drama, no shocking twists, but it had rhythm, autonomy, and a fullness I once thought I'd never know. Sometimes, I still reflect on what I went through: 8 years of marriage, a sudden divorce, a shameless betrayal, the unmasking behind all that flawless makeup. But I no longer feel bitterness. I feel gratitude. That collapse gave me the chance to be reborn, not into someone new, but into myself. No compromises, no avoidance, no pretending to be okay. If anyone ever asked me whether I've forgiven Tyler, I'd probably smile and say, I don't need to forgive anyone. I just need to live true to myself. And for the first time in years, I can say that without hesitation. Arabella's story is a reminder that appearances may fool the world, but time always reveals the truth. When she was betrayed and discarded for not being perfect, she didn't seek revenge or beg for closure. She walked away quietly and rebuilt her life from the inside out. In the end, those who lived a lie had to face the consequences they created, while Arabella found freedom, peace, and her true self, something no amount of cosmetic surgery could ever buy. What do you think of Arabella's choices and the downfall of those who lived a lie? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful and surprising stories about family and resilience.